For whatever reason, and it's something that I haven't quite figured out, New Zealanders aren't learning. They just aren't. I mean, look at the latest poll. They aren't learning. They've decided that, oh yes, no, the problem here isn't that National and Labour are both useless. It's that one's useless one half of the time and the other is useless the other half of the time. You know, these numbers give me a little bit of hope in the sense that at least they're both kind of in the low 30s. But seriously, all the average Kiwi seems to do is look at the political landscape of this country and think, yeah, okay, there are two main parties. There's only ever going to be two main parties, and we're only ever going to vote for those two main parties. And whichever party is being gassed up the most by the media at any given point, or whichever party happens to be in opposition at any given point, they are the ones that we're going to vote for. That makes absolutely no sense. These people are insane. I swear they just want to continue living a life of ignorance. And I'm sorry if that offends you, I don't care. Because the longer that you decide that Labour and National are even viable voting options, the longer you are going to continue leading a life of mediocrity. It's just as simple as that. If you think what we have now is great, good for you. But it could be so much better. And you're actively avoiding so much better because of what? Comfort? Because you can't be bothered paying attention? When was the last time National Labour did something that was genuinely good and we actually saw results? Like, seriously. I can't think of anything. There's the occasional policy which I think that in principle, you know, it could do something of value, but it may take a while to see that come into fruition. There are simple things like, you know, actually sentencing people to a respectable length of time in prison for crimes. That's like, okay, good. Great. That should be the bare minimum that you expect from a government. But in the range of areas that have the most impact on your life that you take for granted, neither of these parties are doing anything of value. They're not doing anything to manage immigration issues. They're not doing anything to manage issues around our educational achievement, no matter how much they want to pretend that changes here and there are actually going to do anything. I know Chris Hipkins is absolutely outraged that the government is making changes to, or wanting to make changes to the education system. But really, what is National actually going to do? What's National going to do that ACT wouldn't do better? What's National going to do that NZ First wouldn't do better? Frankly, what is Labour going to do that the Greens wouldn't do better? Probably anything, to be fair. But you catch my drift, right? Just because a party is big, that doesn't mean they do something better. And that's what I'm sick of people thinking. I'm sick of people thinking that National, because they are the big party that have been around for ages, are just, on paper, because of that, the better economic managers of the three parties in the coalition. Now, I'm not saying ACT would be the best of the three, because I'm not exactly a neoliberal. But of the three, National's definitely not the best. Of the three, National's not the economic manager we need right now. Because as far as economic managers go, they are the least inclined of the three to make the necessary changes. They are the most inclined of the three to make incremental adjustments, which leave everything too late. Of the three parties in the coalition right now, National is by far the weakest party, and it's not particularly close. ACT and NZ First are interchangeable. Really, it just depends where you ideologically sit. Do you value the neoliberal rhetoric of ACT more than the nationalist rhetoric of NZ First? Do you value the social beliefs of NZ First over those of ACT? That's the other main area. Outside of that, you could chuck a vote either way and I wouldn't really care. National, on the other hand, they are lacking in every single area. Every single area that you want to compare them to either of their coalition partners, they come out losing. There is not a single issue National is better than ACT on, I would say. I can't think of one off the top of my head. Nor is there a single issue that National is better than NZ First on. Now, it's a little bit different on the other side of the table because the Greens and Te Pāti Māori are utterly insane. But Labour's not better on any issue than National is. And if National's worse than the other two parties in the current coalition, then Labour's worse than a lot of them, making Labour unelectable. Which just speaks to how insane how many percentage in this? The 13% of people in this poll voting for either the Greens or Te Pāti Māori. That's how insane they are. That should concern you. 1 in 10 people are nutcases. But Labour, up to 33.6%. Are you sure? Are you sure? National, down 2.1 to 31.8%. That's earned. They've earned that drop. They've earned another 15% drop, in my opinion. Let's just add those to the coalition partners there. But NZ First drop is not something I was surprised about, because I don't think anyone actually expected they were at 9.8% in the last Curia poll. It was nice to see, and it shows that there is a ceiling there that it could reach, or at least there is a higher ceiling than some people probably thought. And fortunately, with things like politics, ceilings get higher and lower with time, depending on the climate. As of right now, if you were to put the country to a vote today, I would say the ceiling's about 10%. That could be different 12 months from now. Point being, most people didn't expect NZ First to actually be at about 9.8% in the last poll. Around 7.5 to 8 is where they would have thought it. And likewise, I did. So this change and drop down to 7.8 isn't exactly a shock, nor should it concern anyone who votes for NZ First. Actors, where they are, they've done absolutely nothing to gain traction, really, over the course of the term so far. They had one policy, which people talked a lot about, and the rest of it's just neoliberal garbage, which, if you're a neoliberal, you eat up for, breakfast, lunch, and tea. Or if you're a National voter who doesn't think National's actually pushing the envelope far enough, you will, be attracted to. Outside of that, there was only really one policy that ACT could really drag people in on, and now that that's dead in the water, they're dead in the water in terms of growth. That's where NZ First is that point of difference. That's why they actually have the ability to and room to grow ahead of next year's election, because there's more to them than a single policy which everyone forgot about after it was voted down. But I mean, silver linings are that Te Pāti Māori's going nowhere in terms of growth. 3.2% where they were at the election. So, they've solidified a base of insane racists. Great for them. The Greens have obviously dropped since the election, so that's good news. But the problem is Labour's increased at National's expense and at our country's expense. Now, for those wondering, this poll on screen would result in a hung parliament if it was an election result. So that's concerning, and that would mean a drop of 7 seats for the coalition, the majority of which would have been dropped by National. But yeah, it's concerning. I don't think we're learning. But what am I going to do about it? I can just sit here and say that you're an idiot. In the most respectful way possible, by the way. In the most respectful way possible. I just want you to start thinking. If you're watching this, you probably already are thinking. That's probably the big difference between you and the people I'm actually having a go at here. And for the people who I am having a go at here, in the most respectful, lovingly way possible, please just start considering that maybe Labour and National are a waste of space and are actively holding you back. Maybe you lead a successful business, own a home or two. Does that mean that you couldn't do that even more successfully? Because I know for a fact you could do so even more successfully if National and Labour weren't at the helm.